Capping at your service with some gameplay of Call of Duty Black Ops 3, and I wanted to talk to you guys about specialists in this video because specialists are such a big part of the game. They're pretty much number one, number two, depending on the way you look at movement and, thrust and wall running and swimming and all those mechanics that are added into Black Ops 3. But if you take those out, then basically specialists are pretty much the number one biggest change in Black Ops 3. They changed up the game so much because, whether you're just a new, guy just getting into Call of Duty, or if you're a long-term veteran, there's something new. We've never had a system like this before. Of course, it's very similar to systems in Destiny or other games like that. But even then, I think it's new and it does add a lot of new changes. But of course, with changes in pretty much any game, there's going to be some positives, some negatives. A lot of people may like it, a lot of people may dislike it. And I wanted to talk to you about an analysis of specialists, basically talking to you guys what I think is good about them, what I think can be improved, and basically, I guess, the general feeling of the community about them. So let's get right into it. So let's talk about the general rule of specialists. So specialists are basically designed to give everyone a fair advantage, in that everyone gets an unfair advantage, and that way it's a little more balanced. And what it does is, in the past we had a lot of systems where if a guy was really good at Call of Duty, he would dominate. There was nothing really that someone could do to sort of get rid of him, except for death streaks. But of course, death streaks were very much hated in the community because death streaks only rewarded those who weren't so great at the game, who were sucking and all that. What specialists do is they give everyone the advantage to have either an OP weapon or an ability that gives them a really good advantage, and it gives it to everyone so that, no matter if you're not doing so great or if you're doing amazing and it's your best match ever, you have sort of something to fall back on. You have something to sort of, that will give you an advantage. That'll sort of, I've been saying advantage a lot, but it applies so well to a specialist that, it's one of those things that you just say and you let go, but it gives so many people a chance to redeem themselves for not doing so great. And I think that's the overall goal for it. But of course, if they did put it as a death streak, people would hate on it because, of course, now they're not getting the treatment that everyone else is, even though everyone else is getting that sort of reward for dying a lot, which is not what you want. You want to get a reward for just playing the game and doing well at it. And that's why if you play the game, if you're getting kills and all that, it shaves time off your specialist recharge, and then you can get your abilities and your weapons faster. And I like that a lot because that means that you can't just completely do nothing and, just earn your specialist and just wait for that, because that takes way too long. You have to be playing the objective. You have to be doing at least something to sort of contribute to the fact that you're going to get specialists more often. And I think it's a very nice system. It works very well, and it's another form of a kill streak, because what kill streaks do is they reward players for maintaining streaks, whether it be capturing multiple objectives or killing people as the obvious one, or just getting assists, or just getting points from other score streaks, whatever it may be. It rewards people for continuing on a streak without dying, and I like that a lot because it gives people who are really good at the game, or just having a good streak in general, to earn something that's more than just a gun. It gives people a chance to sort of do something that's fun and interesting, whether it be piling in a chopper or calling in a RAPS deploy ship, or even doing something tactical like calling in a UAV or a counter UAV. It gives a lot of people different options, and it's basically just a reward system. Whereas specialists, yes, it is a reward system in that the more you play in a match, or the more objectives you capture, it shaves time off your specialist. But it's not something so crazy that only the best people can get it. No, I mean, everyone's gonna get it. It's pretty much guaranteed that you're gonna get at least one in a match. Search and destroy is a little bit lower of a chance, but that's because you're not alive all the time. In some situations, you may be dying every round if you're not doing so great. But for the general modes, team deathmatch, domination, harp, one kill confirmed, etc., etc., you will be doing very well in that, and I like that a lot. And you will be able to get your specialist much quicker, and it's sort of, like I said before, it applies to everyone, and I think it's very balanced in that regard. So that's specialists in general. We haven't gone deep into the specific specialists yet. I'm about to do that, and I think that overall, in the general aspect of specialists, I think most people are fine with it because it does allow people to sort of get an advantage. Like I said, it does allow people to sort of change up their gameplay, given a weapon that's that's different from what they used to. And honestly, it's just fun to call in specialists. A lot of games have been doing this these days, and the most notably Destiny is the one that has a sort of specialist power based weapon system in it. But I think Black Ops 3, it does work very well with it as well. However, I think when we talk about specialists in specific, people start not to like it as much because they may be a specific specialist that they're not a huge fan of, or there may be something that they think is overpowered or underpowered and needs balance. Starting off the list is the most controversial specialist ability slash weapon in the game, and that is Rejack. Rejack is giving you the chance to revive yourself after being shot. And some other OP weapons or underpowered things that I think are in the game, or even just that the community thinks, are Reaper's Scythe, Prophet's Tempest, I guess Outrider's Vision Pulse. The Sparrow is not so underpowered or overpowered. I think the Sparrow is balanced fairly well. Or honestly, I think Sparrow is a perfect balanced weapon. As far as it goes, maybe Seraph's Annihilator may be considered overpowered. Some of the underpowered things I would say are both of the Reaper abilities, whether it be Reaper's active camo or Reaper's sort of, I forget exactly what it's called, but it's sort of Assassin's Creed hidden blade knife that he has going on. Those two are the most notably the underpowered things that I have. I haven't used Firebreak yet, but from what I hear, he's not super powerful, and he does not seem to be as powerful as Reaper's Scythe or Seraph's Annihilator, or whatever it may be. So that's the general rule of how people view specialists or specific specialists and all. And let's talk about each specific one, or just in general about how balancing of specialists goes. So a lot of the things that you may think are underbalanced or overpowered may not be at all, because if we dive into specifics about each one, specifically Rejack for an example. Rejack, yes, especially for modes like Search and Destroy, is a very, very overpowered ability. However, if you are at close range with the Rejack, and if someone calls in a Rejack, first of all, it's very obvious when someone is calling in the Rejack, because there's this big cloud of smoke and there's this very obvious green light that's being placed right where he's died. So as soon as he comes back up, the smoke sort of clears out and starts spinning, and it's very clear to see when he's respawned himself. However, it's not super easy to take him out because of that smoke. Of course, we don't want it to be where the second he gets back up, he's shot down. But it is a little bit more obvious than it would be than to someone who just sort of turns away and, doesn't really look back to check if someone has Rejack or not. Reaper's Scythe. Now, yes, it does have high damage, a very, very high rate of fire. Of course, it's a minigun that he's using, and overall low recoil. And yes, that does play into a very big factor, because that's every single category you would want to be good. That's every category that you would want to be accomplished or checked off pretty much. But however, the spin up time on the Reaper Scythe, it's very long. It's 1 second to 2 seconds, and that often means that if you're caught off guard, you have a very, very high chance of dying, because if the other guy has especially a shotgun or an SMG, they can take you out in a second or 2 seconds before you're even done spinning it up. And after that time, after that second of them shooting you or whatever it may be, you've flinched, you've taken damage, so it's harder for you to return fire and take out the enemy when honestly you're just stuck there spinning up your gun. I'm not saying these weapons or abilities are completely balanced perfectly, but I'm just trying to give you guys an edge of saying where the balance factor is. It's not, of course, obviously present if it's used against you, whereas if you're using, then you sort to see the negatives of using a specific weapon or ability. It's much more clear that way. But that's where sort of the balancing comes in. Yes, I agree. Rejack is very powerful in Search and Destroy, and if you're using the ban and protect system, I would highly recommend you ban it or protect it, whichever one you want when the round starts. But it does play a matter of perspective. That yes, there are some things that are very powerful, but they do have balanced mechanics into it. However, in terms of the things that are underpowered, I for sure agree with the community that these things are very underpowered and they need a buff immediately. Specifically, the entire Spectre specialist needs to be balanced pretty much ASAP, because yes, his active camo, if it was longer, would be a little bit of a problem. However, it's very short as it is already, and it's not impossible to tell. It is, if he's moving around and all, it is sort of very, not super easy to see, but it is noticeable and people can pick up on it. I have been able to turn on specialists who are using the active camo on me, and it's not insanely hard to do. Granted, it is a little bit difficult because you do have to track your opponent, but if you have them in your sights, then it's really not that big of a deal. Plus, the short timer does mean it is very annoying, and you have to time it very, very well, and that can be very hard for a lot of players. Second, his Hidden Blade Assassin's Creed thing. I'm gonna call it the Hidden Blade. Yes, it is, basically a commando perk from Modern Warfare 2, but in most situations, especially in a mode like Search and Destroy, it is not useful at all, because the fact that you need to be very close to enemies, or that a lot of the enemies need to be grouped together, but not so close together where they're able to take you out as soon as you take one of them out. That does play a big factor into sort of the underbalanced part of the thing. And I do think that if it got a little bit more of a buff, I'm not sure exactly what you could do to Hidden Blade, because I mean, it is a knife, you know, you're not going to be chucking knives across the map when you get a specialist. Maybe that's what they have in mind. Maybe you can take the hit, maybe that's what they can do to balance it out. Maybe you take out the Hidden Blade and start chucking it at people, and you know, you just keep regenerating Hidden Blades. But I don't know. I mean, I would love to see what Treyarch has in mind for balancing out this thing a little bit more. I think the range on it is, yes, it's low, but it is a very, very nice lunge. You get to lunge at your enemies, so it's not super bad. But I do agree that it needs a little bit of loving to buff it up. And yeah, I think those are the two aspects of Specialist, the general and the specific. We've covered both of them. Now it's time for me to give you guys my general impressions of Specialist and what I think the overall community thinks. So my personal opinion of Specialist is that they're very good. Yes, there are some that are, you know, very powerful for some situations or underpowered for most, let's be honest, but I think overall it does add a very, very nice dynamic to the game, and honestly it just makes it more fun to play. So I'm happy that Treyarch put it in, and I think the general community agrees with me. Yes, of course there's some people who don't like Specialists, and there always are going to be some people who are opposed to change, but I think for the most part Specialists are very, very solid in Black Ops 3, and I think they're very fun, and I think that honestly they should be here to stay. So yeah, that's my video about Specialists. Thank you all for watching. Subscribe to give me YouTube money, and I hope you guys, well, not hope, you had better join me in my next videos. Peace out, guys.